What's up, everybody? JJ Shankles, the Goat Toaster's back, episode 3. It's our Sunday edition of your daily tech news. I want to thank you guys for coming back around for another edition. Today we've got some big news about little things. Milestone evidence has been found for a third kingdom of subatomic particles. Before now, we thought there were only two. They were fermions and bosons. Fermions, to kind of simplify it, are subatomic particles that can't share a quantum state. So like electrons, neutrons, protons, everyday objects that have firm, that's kind of a way to think about it. I know this is an oversimplification, but we'll get to that. Then bosons are kind of like photons of light where they can interact with each other and pass through each other at the same quantum state. So sort of like energy particles. And those are two separate definitions and they don't overlap at all. Anyons are this new classification of particles that aren't bosons, aren't fermions, but they are everything in between. And so we haven't actually found these particles yet, we've just found really solid evidence pointing towards them. That's how you know it's real science, because they don't make actual claims, they say, we think we have found evidence for. They don't say we found an Anyon before they found it, which I do highly respect about the science community. A little more physics news that might actually help you on your day-to-day life are new studies on Corkscrew Fiber Optics. So our current fiber optic technology uses amplification of light to modulate your data and send it through a fiber optic cable. But since technology is not super good at amplifying light at fast enough speeds, it's not as efficient as it should be. This new technology combines amplification and phase changes of light to be able to send a lot more data very quickly through those fiber optic cables if you make them corkscrew. The technology is still in the preliminary phases, but it looks to be promising if we could adopt this, that it will be a technology to send more data quicker through fiber optic cables. And on with some legal news about technology. Someone shot a drone down and is now facing felony charges. So currently the FAA uses the same rule to apply. You can't shoot down a manned aircraft, and it's the same law that says you can't shoot down an unmanned drone. So one guy flew his drone over a meat processing facility and one of the employees shot it down, and so now is facing felony charges against that. This law has never been actually used in a court against someone who shot down a drone. So this will kind of set a legal precedent moving forward and how drone laws are being created and used in everyday life by people who fly drones. But enough news about flying drones, now we're into flying spaceships. Space Force is set to launch another mission of a space plane. The X37B is set to launch on a 6th mission. This is the first one they've kind of publicly publicized. All the other ones they've kind of kept quiet. This one is set to launch into space, do some science experiments on solar radiation, and then land on the runway down at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This space plane looks like how the space shuttle looked, but a little bit smaller and with some slight tweaks in the design. Very exciting to see a reusable space vehicle being used like this, and this is the 6th mission of it, and they only have 2 of them built, so they have been reused multiple times now. Now enough with space planes, we're on to real-life cars now. And unfortunately, your next electric vehicle will not be built by a vacuum manufacturer. We're not talking about Hoover, we're talking about Dyson. Dyson's electric vehicle, which was scrapped back in October, they now released a lot of data about their vehicle, some specs showing off really good specs. It had a 600-mile battery on it, which would double most other electric vehicles that are currently in the market, while still having a top speed of 125 miles an hour and 0 to 60 in only 4.8 seconds, and while being a 6-seater SUV. Dyson scrapped the project, saying it was just getting too expensive. They were putting so much money into this that in the end the vehicles would have to cost about 150 pounds per vehicle to just break even. This is just an example of how electric vehicle manufacturers that don't also produce gas-powered electric vehicles, and they're having to start from the ground up with design, and they don't have electric vehicles to kind of offset those costs, are really at a loss. Even Tesla, which on the surface looks to be a successful company, there's a lot of Teslas you see driving around, but the company has posted annual losses every single year since they went public. But Dyson does think they'll be able to sell off their technologies to other companies or license them out to any other manufacturers that want to use these technologies. Yeah, I think a 600-mile battery is something every company is going to be wanting. And on to some weird tech, we've got a little bit of hardware news today. Alienware has produced an all-in-one liquid cooler for your GPU that fits into a second PCI Express slot underneath your graphics card. Since multi-GPU setups are more for professional rigs, everyday users have a lot of empty PCI Express slots, and so why not put your radiator down in another PCI Express slot? Looks like a really cool design, and it'd be exciting to see if other manufacturers would adopt this technology to see where it goes in the future. And now on to some video game news. Hype beasts be gone. Never pre-order your games. Anthem has said they are working on redesigning. They're going to totally reinvent the experience of Anthem, a game that totally flopped on launch. There was so much hype for this game, but it kind of fizzled out and didn't really deliver on that day one. Now they have a small group working to totally redesign the game, and they say it won't be quick. And anyone waiting for that update to revitalize the game will have a while to wait. Just remember, don't pre-purchase a game, especially from a AAA title. They've got so much money. EA doesn't need to hold your money while you wait on this game to come out. Wait till day one, see how the game is, and then buy it. On the flip side of pre-ordering games, the Playdate handheld device won't let you know what games they're developing until they're released. Yes, we're in the future of gaming because now game consoles have a crank on it. It's got a directional pad, an A, a B, and a crank on the side of the device, which you use as an input into your games to control certain aspects of the game. And they are selling the games on a subscription basis. For $150, you get the game device and the first 12 games that will be released. You'll get them when they are released, and you don't know what games are going to be created until they're released. They do have some pretty big names and game designers tied to the game, so it will be exciting to see where they go with this. It was initially a little side project of a developer, but then he found so many people were into it that he decided to market it as an actual gaming device. It's exciting to see when game developers take something on totally new, like putting a crank in a video game that just hasn't been done before. Such a small thing, but it's exciting to see games not be more of the same. And talking about innovating in tech, Apple says their Apple glasses will be actually cool. Google may have invented the wearable glasses tech, but those were definitely not a cool thing. They were definitely a nerdy geek side of things, and in no way would those have been widely adopted by the everyday user. But when Apple decides to pick something up, you know it's going to be cool, you know it's going to be widely accepted as an everyday item. Wearable smartwatches were great, but then when Apple decided to create one, they didn't even create the most technologically advanced one, and it became widely adopted and very popular in everyday use. The same thing happened when they made AirPods. They aren't even that good, they're not that comfortable, they're super weird with the dangly tail sticking out of it, but they're wildly popular, and so many companies are now just copying that, putting this dangly tab on it. It's not a good design, but it's wildly popular and you see them everywhere. So I'm really excited to see where they take the wearable glasses technology, and then to see where third parties take that and advance on it even more. And now onto a little bit of Google news. The Pixel 4 has now entered 2020 on their spec sheet. You can now shoot 4K video at up to 60 frames a second. This isn't natively on their camera app. It is on a third-party app called Filmic Pro, and unfortunately it does cost $15 for that app, so I personally will not be using it. Since I don't use 4K 60, especially on a phone, it's gonna eat up all that data. And since the Pixel 4 only comes at 64 and 128 gigabyte storage options, and I personally would rather have high quality 4K 30 than low quality 4K 60. But it really depends on what use case you're shooting. If you're shooting sports or very quick action shots, then a 4K 60 would be very useful. But that wraps up our Sunday edition of today's tech news. Let me know in the comments down below if anything I said was infactual, if I missed any stories of today. If you point something out, I will mention it in tomorrow's video. And while you're down there, make sure you like and subscribe, that way you won't miss any more of my videos. I will be continuing to try to produce this once a day. And I did want to say thank you to every subscriber out there. I just crossed 500 subscribers on this channel. That's a huge milestone for me. And I just want to thank every single one of you for making that possible. I hope you have an amazing day. 2020 is turning out to be a little crazy, so just make sure you're staying safe out there, washing your hands a lot, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Go Toaster out.